Today we take a close look at a small but fascinating coin from the United Kingdom, the 3-pence coin dated 1955, issued during the early reign of Queen Elizabeth II. At first glance, this coin may seem simple and modest, but behind its size lies a deep story of British history, post-war recovery, and a changing nation finding its place in the modern world. The year 1955 sits firmly in the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's reign. She had ascended the throne in 1952, following the death of her father, King George VI. Britain at this time was still recovering from the effects of World War II. Rationing had only recently ended, industries were rebuilding, and everyday coins like the 3-pence played an important role in daily life, passing through millions of hands in markets, buses, and local shops. The 1955 3-pence coin was struck in brass, giving it a warm golden color that made it easy to recognize. It has a distinctive 12-sided shape, known as dodecagonal, which was introduced earlier to help people identify the coin by touch. This unusual shape made the 3-pence stand out from other British coins and is one of the reasons it remains memorable and collectible today. On the obverse side of the coin, we see the young portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by sculptor Mary Gillick. This portrait shows the Queen facing right, wearing a laurel wreath rather than a crown. The design reflects youth, freshness, and a new beginning for the monarchy. Around the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II DEI GRATIA REGINA, which translates to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen. This inscription emphasizes the traditional authority and continuity of the British crown. The reverse side of the coin features a Tudor rose, one of the most iconic symbols of England. The rose represents unity and heritage, linking the modern reign of Elizabeth II to centuries of English history. Above the rose is the denomination 3-pence, while below it is the date 1955. The design is clean, balanced, and instantly recognizable, reflecting the classic style of mid-20th century British coinage. In 1955, the 3-pence coin had real purchasing power. It could buy everyday items such as sweets, small snacks, or a short bus ride. For many people, especially children, this coin was part of daily life. It jingled in pockets, sat in purses, and was often saved in small jars at home. These everyday memories give the coin emotional value beyond its metal content. From a collector's point of view, the 1955 3-pence coin is not considered extremely rare, as millions were minted. However, condition plays a huge role in its value. Coins that remain bright, sharp, and free from heavy wear are far more desirable than those that have seen years of circulation. Many examples today show scratches, dull color, or worn details, which is natural for a coin that was widely used. Uncirculated or well-preserved examples of the 1955 3-pence coin can attract collectors who specialize in British decimal and pre-decimal coinage. The early portrait of Queen Elizabeth II is especially popular, as it represents the beginning of her historic reign, which would eventually become the longest in British history. The 3-pence coin also represents a system of money that no longer exists. Before decimalization in 1971, British currency was based on pounds, shillings, and pence, a complex system that many people today find confusing. Coins like the 3-pence are reminders of that old system and of a time when Britain's monetary tradition was deeply rooted in history. Today, the 1955 UK 3-pence coin is more than just loose change from the past. It is a small historical artifact, connecting us to post-war Britain, to the early years of Queen Elizabeth II, and to everyday life in the 1950s. Whether you are a serious coin collector or simply someone who enjoys history, this coin tells a quiet but meaningful story. Next coin. The United Kingdom 3-pence coin dated 1956 is a small but historically rich piece of British coinage, representing a nation in transition and a young monarch at the beginning of a remarkable reign. Issued during the early years of Queen Elizabeth II's rule, this coin reflects post-war Britain, traditional craftsmanship, and the everyday currency used by millions of people during the mid-20th century. Queen Elizabeth II ascended the throne in 1952 following the death of her father, King George VI. By 1956, she was still a young queen, but already a powerful symbol of stability and continuity for the British people. Coins struck during this period are especially significant because they belong to the first portrait era of Elizabeth II, capturing the early identity of a monarch who would go on to become the longest-reigning sovereign in British history. The 3-pence coin of 1956 was part of Britain's pre-decimal currency system, which remained in use until 1971. At that time, British money was based on pounds, shillings, and pence. 1 pound consisted of 20 shillings, and each shilling was divided into 12 pence. The 3-pence coin, often called the threepenny bit, had a value of 3 old pence and was widely used in everyday transactions such as buying food, paying bus fares, or making small purchases at local shops. Unlike many round coins, the 3-pence had a distinctive 12-sided shape, known as a dodecagon. This unusual design made the coin easy to recognize by touch, especially useful in pockets or purses where several coins were carried together. The coin was made from brass, giving it a golden color that stood out among other denominations. Its solid feel and unique shape made it one of the most recognizable coins in British circulation. On the obverse side of the 1956 3-pence coin appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by sculptor Mary Gillick. This portrait is known as the first portrait of Elizabeth II and shows the Queen facing right, wearing a laurel wreath rather than a crown. The design emphasizes youth, simplicity, and classical elegance, reflecting the hopeful mood of the early 1950s. Surrounding the Queen's portrait is the Latin inscription Elizabeth II DEI GRATIA REGINA, which translates to Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen. This inscription reflects centuries-old royal tradition and emphasizes the monarch's authority and role as head of state. The clean and balanced design of the obverse makes it one of the most admired early portraits of Queen Elizabeth II on British coinage. The reverse side of the coin features a crowned portcullis with chains, a powerful symbol long associated with British authority and Parliament. The portcullis represents strength, security, and the protection of the realm. Above the design is a royal crown, reinforcing the connection between the monarchy and the government. Below the portcullis is the date, 1956, clearly marking the year of issue. The reverse inscription includes the words 3-pence, identifying the denomination. The overall design is simple yet meaningful, combining national symbols with practical clarity. This balance between symbolism and function was a hallmark of British coin design during the mid-20th century. The year 1956 was a notable time in British history. The country was rebuilding after the devastation of World War II, and society was gradually moving toward modernization. While rationing was ending and living standards were improving, traditional values and institutions still played a central role in daily life. Coins like the 3-pence were part of this everyday experience, passing through countless hands and silently witnessing history as it unfolded. The Royal Mint produced large quantities of 3-pence coins in 1956 to meet the needs of circulation. As a result, the coin is not considered extremely rare today. However, its value depends heavily on condition. Coins that remain in excellent or uncirculated condition, with sharp details and original luster, are much more desirable to collectors than heavily worn examples. Collectors today appreciate the 1956 3-pence coin not only for its monetary value but also for its historical and cultural significance. It represents the early reign of Queen Elizabeth II, the final decades of Britain's pre-decimal currency system, and a design style that would soon disappear as the country moved toward decimalization in 1971. For many people, this coin also carries a sense of nostalgia. It reminds older generations of a time when British coins had weight, texture, and character. The distinctive shape and brass composition made the 3-pence a memorable part of daily life, and it remains a favorite among numismatists and history enthusiasts. Today, the 1956 UK 3-pence coin stands as a small but meaningful artifact of British heritage. It tells a story of monarchy, tradition, and everyday life in mid-20th century Britain. Though modest in value, its historical importance and classic design ensure its place in collections around the world. Next coin. The United Kingdom 3-pence coin from 1964 is a small but fascinating piece of British history, representing a time when the country was balancing tradition with modern life. Though modest in value and size, this coin tells a story of post-war Britain, the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, and a currency system that would soon disappear forever. By 1964, Queen Elizabeth II had been on the throne for more than a decade. She became queen in 1952, and her early reign symbolized renewal, stability, and continuity after the hardships of World War II. Britain in the 1960s was changing rapidly, with new music, fashion, and social ideas shaping everyday life. Yet the coins in people's pockets still reflected centuries of royal tradition, and the 3-pence coin was a perfect example of this blend of old and new. The 1964 3-pence coin was part of the pre-decimal currency system used in the United Kingdom before 1971. At that time, British money followed a complex structure where £1 was equal to 20 shillings, and 1 shilling was equal to 12 pence. This meant there were 240 pence in a single pound. The 3-pence coin, often called a threepence or threepenny bit, was worth 3 old pence and played a practical role in daily transactions, especially for small purchases. Unlike earlier silver 3-pence coins, the 1964 version was made from brass. This change in metal had taken place years earlier, in 1937, as silver became too expensive for everyday coinage. The brass 3-pence coin had a distinctive golden color and a unique 12-sided shape, making it easy to recognize by touch alone. This design was especially helpful for people with visual impairments and became one of the most recognizable shapes in British coinage. On the front of the coin appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. This is the first official coin portrait of the Queen, designed by sculptor Mary Gillick. The portrait shows a young Elizabeth II facing right, wearing a laurel wreath rather than a crown. This choice gave the image a classical, dignified appearance and emphasized her role as a modern yet traditional monarch. Around the portrait is the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II DEI GRATIA REGINA FD, which translates to Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This inscription connects the coin to centuries of royal and religious tradition. The reverse side of the 1964 3-pence coin features a simple but meaningful design. At the center is a crowned plant with 3 oak leaves, symbolizing strength, endurance, and national pride. The oak tree has long been associated with England and represents stability and resilience. Beneath the design is the date 1964, marking the year of issue. The reverse was designed by Francis Madge Kitchener, whose work appeared on several British coins during this era. The year 1964 was an interesting moment in British history. The country was experiencing economic challenges, but also cultural energy and optimism. The Beatles were at the height of their fame, London was becoming a global cultural capital, and traditional institutions like the monarchy continued to provide a sense of identity and continuity. Coins like the 3-pence were everyday objects that quietly reflected these broader historical changes. In terms of production, millions of 3-pence coins were minted in 1964. Because of this high mintage, the coin is not considered rare today. Most examples found in circulated condition have modest monetary value. However, for collectors, the coin's appeal lies more in its history, design, and nostalgic connection to pre-decimal Britain rather than its price. Condition plays an important role in determining the value of a 1964 3-pence coin. Coins that have seen heavy circulation often show wear, scratches, and a darker tone. These are usually worth only a small amount above face value. On the other hand, coins in excellent condition, especially those with sharp details and original luster, are more desirable to collectors. Uncirculated examples can be worth significantly more, particularly if they have been well preserved. The 3-pence coin remained in circulation until the United Kingdom adopted decimal currency in 1971. On Decimal Day, the old system of pounds, shillings, and pence was replaced with a simpler structure based on powers of 10. As a result, coins like the 3-pence were withdrawn from everyday use. For many people, this marked the end of a familiar way of handling money and became a source of nostalgia in later years. Today, the 1964 UK 3-pence coin is a reminder of a vanished monetary system and a different pace of life. It represents an era when coins were designed not just for efficiency, but also with strong symbolic meaning. The 12-sided shape, the oak leaves, and the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II all come together to create a coin that is both practical and deeply historical. For collectors and history enthusiasts, this coin offers an accessible way to connect with Britain's past. It may not be rare or expensive, but it carries the weight of tradition, national identity, and royal heritage. Holding a 1964 3-pence coin is like holding a small piece of everyday history, once passed from hand to hand in shops, markets, and homes across the United Kingdom. Next coin. The United Kingdom 3-pence coin from 1965 is a small but fascinating piece of British monetary history. At first glance, it may look simple and modest, but this coin represents a moment of transition in the UK's currency system and reflects the changing identity of Britain during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. For collectors and history lovers, the 1965 3-pence coin is more than just loose change from the past. It is a symbol of a nation moving toward modernization while still honoring tradition. Queen Elizabeth II ascended the British throne in 1952, and her portrait appeared on UK coinage for more than 70 years, making her reign the longest in British history. The 3-pence coin of 1965 features the second portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by the sculptor Arnold Machin. This portrait shows the Queen facing right, wearing the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara. The design is elegant, youthful, and dignified, reflecting stability and continuity during a period of social and economic change in Britain. Around the portrait runs the Latin inscription, Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina FD, which translates to Elizabeth II by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This traditional inscription connects the modern monarchy to centuries of British royal history and emphasizes the constitutional role of the monarch. The year 1965 appears beneath the portrait, marking a significant era in British coinage. During this time, the United Kingdom was still using the pre-decimal currency system, which had been in place for hundreds of years. In this system, £1 was equal to 20 shillings, and 1 shilling was equal to 12 pence, meaning there were 240 pence in a single pound. The 3-pence coin was an important part of everyday transactions, commonly used for small purchases, public transport, and daily necessities. The reverse side of the 1965 3-pence coin features a striking and modern design, a 3-leaf plant known as the portcullis with chains, surmounted by a crown. This design symbolized strength, security, and the authority of the British state. The number 3 is clearly displayed, making the coin easy to identify, even for those who could not read. This practical design choice was especially important in an era when coins of different denominations often circulated together in pockets and purses. Unlike earlier silver 3-pence coins, the 1965 3-pence was made from brass, giving it a golden color. This change in metal reflected broader economic decisions made by the British government. Rising silver prices in the mid-20th century made precious metal coinage expensive to produce, so base metals were increasingly used for circulating coins. Brass was durable, affordable, and suitable for mass production, making it ideal for everyday use. The 3-pence coin had a distinctive dodecagonal, or 12-sided, shape, which made it instantly recognizable by touch. This feature was especially helpful for visually impaired users and added to the coin's popularity. Even without looking, people could easily identify the 3-pence coin in their pocket. This innovative shape was ahead of its time and later inspired designs used in modern coinage. By 1965, British society was undergoing rapid change. The post-war years had given way to new cultural movements, technological progress, and economic challenges. While the 3-pence coin was still widely used, discussions were already underway about simplifying the complex pre-decimal currency system. Just a few years later, in 1971, the United Kingdom officially adopted decimalization, fundamentally changing how money was counted and used. As a result, the 1965 3-pence coin belongs to the final chapter of traditional British currency. It continued to circulate for a short time after decimalization but was eventually withdrawn. For many people, this coin became a reminder of childhood, school days, and a simpler era of British life. From a collector's point of view, the 1965 3-pence coin is not considered extremely rare, as millions were minted. However, its value depends heavily on condition. Coins that remain in uncirculated or near-mint condition, with bright color and sharp details, are far more desirable than worn examples. Coins showing scratches, fading, or heavy wear are generally valued only slightly above face value, while well-preserved specimens can command higher prices in the collector market. Despite its modest monetary value, the true importance of the 1965 3-pence coin lies in its historical and emotional significance. It represents the final years of Britain's old money system and the enduring image of Queen Elizabeth II on everyday objects used by millions of people. Holding this coin today is like holding a small piece of living history, one that connects modern Britain to its past. For collectors, historians, and YouTube audiences alike, the UK 3-pence coin from 1965 tells a quiet but meaningful story. It speaks of tradition and transition, monarchy and modern life, and the small objects that quietly shape our daily experiences. Though no longer found in circulation, this coin continues to shine as a symbol of an era that helped shape the United Kingdom we know today.